Is gentle parenting ruining society? We are seeing behavioral issues in the classroom. Kids are becoming more unruly. We got kids destroying Sephora's, bullying people over Stanley Cups. And is this because of gentle parenting? Well, I wanted to share some of my personal insights as a mom and professional insights as a coach. I'm going to look at some of the most common criticisms of gentle parenting that I get on my Instagram, because folks love to tussle on my Instagram. And then I'll share my take and then let you draw your own conclusions. It is my hope that at the end of the video, you will either A, have a better understanding of what gentle parenting actually is, if you're one of those people like, it's a hell no for me, or that you'll be able to sharpen your gentle parenting skills and make sure you're not actually doing what some of these criticisms are implying. Let's get into it. So the first criticism I get is that gentle parenting is for gentle kids, and the idea that certain children need us to be authoritarian, like they need to be spanked or they need to be yelled at or put in timeout because of their temperament. And because gentle parents do not do these things, the idea is that that's why kids are misbehaving, allegedly. But my question to you is this: if your kids aren't gentle, why? Like, why not? Why aren't they gentle? And that is one of the most important things in gentle parenting, is to actually understand behavior. And I appreciate gentle parenting because it challenges us as parents to educate ourselves and take parenting seriously, and not just say like, oh, parenting is supposed to be intuitive and we're just supposed to do what we've seen done. Like, no, the gentle parenting thing to do is to ask why and to look beneath the behavior. And so here's something that a gentle parent might believe. All behavior is a result of one or two things. One, developmental stage, or two, an unmet need. And so when your child is misbehaving, society tells you to say like, hey, you're being bad, you need a consequence, when in reality, it is an invitation for you as the leader to look and say, is that developmentally appropriate, right? Like the toddler throwing mashed potatoes on the floor is not happening because they're bad or because they need a consequence. The toddler threw the mashed potatoes on the floor because developmentally, that's where their brain is at. Like they don't have the executive skills and the frontal lobe development to avoid behaviors like that consistently. And so understanding that's their developmental state. Now, they don't need a consequence. They need to learn a skill, right? The other thing that may be happening is an unmet need. And this is where the conversation gets a little foggy, because when gentle parents say that we are in the business of meeting kids' needs, I'm not talking about appeasing them and being their butler and waiting on them hand and foot and let them walk all over me. No, I'm talking about, from a psychological standpoint, understanding that every single human, me, you, your kid, has basic human needs. And it is our job as leaders to proactively create an environment that acknowledges and meets those basic human needs. And so I'm going to share with you 7 basic human needs. These are adapted from Dr. William Glasser's choice theory. And they are this: number 1, survival, safety, security. Can we all agree that our kids need to be safe? Can we all agree that they need to be fed and housed and hydrated? But guess what also falls under survival, safety, and security? Routines, boundaries, structure. Like, yes, that is important if you are gentle parenting. And if you're gentle parenting with no boundaries, with no structure, no routine, you are not parenting. You are neglectful parenting, okay? Number 2 is unconditional love, belonging, and authenticity. Humans need to feel love. Period. Okay. And if that sense of belonging, connection are chronically unmet, you better believe you're a lot more likely to end up seeing inappropriate behaviors in the future. So it's not about being reactive and trying to rush and, oh, I need to meet this need, I need to do this, I got you. No, it's about creating an environment proactively where I say my child should experience unconditional love. And that means that it's okay to make mistakes. And that means checking myself and modeling appropriate emotional responses when they make mistakes so that they can develop a growth mindset. Number 3 is attention and affection and appreciation, okay? So setting time up in your routine to spend with your child. Doing things with your child is important. And so sometimes our kids are not gentle because this need has gone unmet for so long. If when we get home, we're focused on the night routine and getting through it, homework, dinner, and then bed, boom. Do this for long enough and you are going to see behavioral issues, okay? Sometimes in the moment, yes, I can stop and recognize and realize like, oh my goodness, my kid's behavior is off. We need to connect. But that's a quick fix. And that's not the goal of gentle parenting, right? Gentle parenting, again, is about being proactive. And so you have to have affection and attention as a genuine part of the routine. We're going to go outside and play together. Okay, we're gonna sit down and do board games. I'm gonna show you affection physically, verbally, intentionally. The next one is emotional attunement. This does not mean sitting down and talking about our kids' feelings for hours and hours. No, that's not what this means. Emotional attunement means that I have space for your emotions. I recognize that you're sad. I'm controlling my emotions when you're sad, okay? I don't have to shut down. I don't have to run. I don't have to force your emotions to go away. I can have empathy for the fact that you have feelings. That's it, okay? I'm not going to hear you share your experience and then check out and do something else. I can hold space for your emotional experience. And even as adults, we know when somebody has empathy for us, and it's not necessarily that they sit down and let us stew in our feelings for a long time. We recognize that person cares when I'm hurting. That person is tuned in when I'm excited and experiencing joy, and they're not checked out. The same applies for our kids. Number 5 is power and empowerment, okay? And this one I hear a lot of criticism about, because giving kids too many options and choices can cause issues if everything is negotiable all day long, right? I do agree with that. And it's still a basic human need. So I like to look at this not from a standpoint of giving choices so that they can get what they want all day, but giving choices so that they can be empowered. This is teaching them how to make decisions, right? And so everything does not have to be a choice. No. Somebody said that gentle parents don't give their kids clear directives, like go put your shoes on, and that it has to be like a choice. Do you want to put your shoes on now, or do you want to put them on later? And that ain't it. You might choose that if that's what the moment calls for or allows, but that in itself is not gentle parenting. However, empowering our kids to make choices is. And so maybe you say, hey, go put your shoes on, but maybe you also say, which shoes we feeling today? Choices. Empowerment. Number 6 is freedom, autonomy, and independence. Gentle parents encourage and model independence, okay? That is important, because if we're not doing that, then guess what? We're being neglectful. But the point here is going back to understanding development and making sure that those responsibilities and expectations are developmentally appropriate. But they still exist. We still have those expectations, just like everybody else. But in addition to understanding where they are developmentally, we are also making sure that those expectations are coming from our integrity and our values, and not from our trauma or our ego. And so we teach life skills. We give them opportunities to learn and fail and develop an internal sense of confidence and competence. We model appropriate behavior, and most importantly, we intentionally embed those things into the environment consistently. Let's just say I just expect you to clean up, and I'm not worried about where your brain is developmentally or anything like that. I just expect, because I said clean up, you need to clean up. But I'm not setting up the environment to teach the skill of cleanliness. Or maybe yesterday a messy room was okay, but today it's not okay because my boss pissed me off and I'm overstimulated and irritated. Or maybe I'm not even doing a good job at modeling it with my own bedroom. If those things are going on, guess what? I'm not supporting you in getting the need for independence met. And my expectations are not matching my effort or my leadership. And that's not gentle parenting. And then the 7th basic human need is fun, play, discovery, okay? So you know an adult that does not have any joy in their life when you see them, right? What does their behavior look like? Well, the same goes for our kids, and the fact that they need play. They need space to be curious. And I want you to ask yourself, at what point is the environment about play and curiosity and discovery? Gentle parenting encourages those things in the environment. For me as a gentle parent, that means that I am going to set up spaces and places for discovery. If you are in the tactile phase, or you're really into sensory stuff and you're curious, I'm not gonna wait until I've been answering emails for an hour and then I see that it's water everywhere and step in and start parenting, okay? Because then I'm gonna be reactive. Like, no, instead I'm going to be proactive and say, that's where you're at developmentally, okay? Let's set up a sensory bin. Let's put some water in the dish and let you transfer it with a towel down, okay? Let's do some independent play. Let's give you plenty of opportunities to meet that need. So I want you to look at these 7 needs and be honest with yourself about which ones are actually being met on a consistent basis. Which of these you actually feel confident in your parenting. If you are seeing negative behaviors, if you are in a space where you're like, well, I don't have a gentle kid, then I would start here. All right, so that's number 1. If these kids ain't gentle, then it doesn't mean we're supposed to not be gentle in response. The next criticism I hear is that gentle parenting does not prepare kids for the real world. And I just want to say to the gentle parents out there, if your child is struggling with behavior outside of your home, then we go back to what's underlying the behavior. And there could be so many reasons, but one of them may be because they need to develop certain skills. It could also mean that there is something off in their need for security and the boundaries in the home, or maybe their need for autonomy and independence is off, and they may need more support in that area. Because my goal as a parent, well, one of my goals as a parent, I have many, but one of them is for my role to be less and less hands-on as they get older and as they develop more skills. And so in order to do that, I have to prepare my child for the world. Number one, by allowing them to be in the real world, right? So I'm going to send them to family members' houses. They are going to go to school, or we will be out in public. And I take it as my role and responsibility as a gentle parent to help them navigate those experiences. Let's be clear, I'm intentional about whose home they're in, about what environments that they're in. We can't just go to everybody's house. But within that context, I'm helping them navigate those situations and not constantly feeling like those situations have to change just to make me or my child comfortable. My 6-year-old's behavior at home does not look the same at school. My behavior at home don't look the same at work. But it's because they're different environments, and it's important for all of us to learn how to navigate different environments and different rules and structures and expectations. But as gentle parents, we still think that's important to teach. The next criticism I get a lot is that kids need to hear no. And my question is, like, who said that wasn't true? Who said that? We're all going to hear no sometimes. Kids do need to experience disappointment. Okay, that is so very true. But as a gentle parent, my no may look different than somebody else's no. And so for my no, my boundaries and limits, I don't have to be punitive, right? Like, gentle parents strive to be informed and aware and educated, so they consider the brain development. Also, I consider my values in my no. It's not about the lady on Instagram. It's not about what my parents did. It's about the fact that I sat down and actually took the time to think about what matters to me so that I'm not making ego-based or trauma-based decisions. And when I say trauma-based, I mean based off of projecting from my own personal negative experiences. And when I say from ego, I mean making parenting decisions based off of a desire for control, flexing parenting authority, those kind of things. Another difference when it comes to my no is that I recognize that when we power over our kids all day for years and years and years, they are going to try to grab control in the easiest way possible, okay? And that may be with a teacher. That may be with constantly pushing back with you on everything. I firmly believe that a lot of times their preteen years will show you the impact of your controllingness and the quality of your leadership in their early years. And by leadership, I mean your willingness to proactively create an environment that honored their basic human needs. And so, yes, I say no to my kids all the time, but one other really important piece of gentle parenting is my empathy for them and being able to understand their frustration with boundaries or with limits. Like, I'm not mad that you're mad. I'm not irritated that you're upset. Sadness, frustration, anger are normal emotional reactions to rejection or to not getting our way. And by empathizing, which means taking myself out of my emotional state for a second and being willing to see theirs, by doing that, I can either allow them to naturally move through those emotions, and I ain't got to do nothing, fix the feelings, fix the situation, right? Just allow them to be upset. Because some grown folks did not get the opportunity to be upset, and we're seeing it now in their inability to function and move through emotions appropriately, right? So I can let them do that. Or by being empathetic and getting outside of myself, I can be more open to the idea of collaboration. And so empathy can also keep your ego in check. When I empathize and I can see their frustration, I can say, wait, hold up. Am I just being punitive right now? Like, am I responding this way because people are watching me, or is this actually in alignment with values that I'm modeling and encouraging and teaching my child? And do I need to shift because I'm not being a consistent leader? And so I can hold space for their feelings within the context of still helping them to learn the skill, okay? And sometimes the skill is how to sit through and feel and experience hearing no. Okay, and so the next criticism is that kids need consequences. And I'm not going to say whether or not that goes against gentle parenting. I think that this is one of the areas that there may be some disagreement within the community of gentle parenting. Some of us only believe in natural consequences. You went outside without a jacket on, and now you're cold, so you'll learn for the next time. Some gentle parents believe in logical and related consequences. But what I will say that is in general across the board is that consequences themselves look a lot different for gentle parents in this one specific way. So if you're not gentle parenting, you may see a consequence as a need to teach them a lesson, right? You need to get why this is not okay and why it can't happen again. And it is like very much stop the behavior right now. And that can make a consequence turn into a punishment very easily. Whereas for me, as a gentle parent, I see a consequence as an opportunity to learn a skill, opportunity to teach creative problem solving, or an opportunity to practice repair and accountability. So a consequence isn't about teaching you a lesson, it's about teaching you a skill. So you may have a parent that sees that the homework is not done, and they might say, okay, you didn't do your homework this week, you're on punishment. I'm going to teach you a lesson by imposing an undesirable consequence to teach you that something bad happens when I don't do my homework. So I should do my homework, right? Well, as a gentle parent, I am under the belief that I do not need to give you an undesirable result in order to teach you, in order to discipline you. I do not have to cause harm in order to do that. I know people don't like the phrase cause harm, but yes, making somebody feel bad is causing harm. I'm not saying that's not going to happen in moments. What I'm saying is that I don't have to intentionally do that in order to teach my child a skill, in order to discipline them. And I also just understand that it can have greater negative implications in the future. When I'm punitive or reactive or emotional in my parenting, it negatively impacts their brain. And so as they're slowly moving into the development of their frontal lobe, their prefrontal cortex, and all the areas that help them function in the way that you desire for them to function, it is counterproductive to do things that overly increase their cortisol and overly hyperactivate their fear responses and put them into fight or flight. I know I'm getting psychological, but again, it's our responsibility to educate ourselves on these things. And it's counterproductive for us to do things that go against their brain development. So instead, I might look at one of those three things, right? Problem solving, teaching a skill, or accountability and repair. I might say, I noticed you didn't do your homework this week. What's up? And through that curiosity, I might realize they're struggling with time management. And we can sit down and creatively problem solve their schedule, their routine. I might learn that they're being bullied, and we may need to learn a skill that's connected to resilience, right? And once I figure out what's happening, we can then move into either accountability or repair. So how do we fix this is typically the question that I ask to manage mistakes. Not how can I teach you a lesson, but instead, what is the appropriate next step? Okay, so this is the last criticism I hear of gentle parenting, and it's probably the one that I think has some validity. And it is that gentle parenting is privileged parenting. And I think that comes from the fact that a lot of people advocating for gentle parenting on these apps are not your everyday regular parents. They have a certain level of security and support that a lot of parents don't have. A lot of parents are in survival mode, okay? Some for self-inflicted reasons, but also just the state of the country we live in and the fact that for some people, moving out of survival mode systemically and intergenerationally is more of a challenge than for others. And so while I do believe that gentle parenting isn't just exclusively for privileged people, I do believe that being in survival mode makes gentle parenting so much more difficult. And it's actually because of everything that I've talked about with our kids. Behaviors are just a manifestation of where we are developmentally and the quality of our needs being met. And so some of us, because of intergenerational trauma, have been left behind developmentally in some ways, okay? Whether that is emotional development, executive functioning development, or interpersonal and relational development. And so some of our parenting behaviors are going to be impacted by that. And so if you had the privilege of growing up in certain environments or with certain advantages, and especially certain levels of security, that can absolutely impact your ability to regulate your emotions in parenting, to creative problem solve, to meet your own needs so that you can do the same for your child. And that's especially true if you have continued to be in survival mode. Some of us are not safe and secure in our own environments. Maybe you don't have a lot of power in your life and in your circumstances. I say this all the time, that when I see a controlling parent, it is oftentimes an indicator that they may not have a lot of control over their own lives. And so is gentle parenting privileged parenting? No, but it's a both and. Like, it's not just for certain people. And I also recognize that being in survival mode and not having your needs met can make certain gentle parenting tools less accessible. Okay, so is gentle parenting ruining society? No. Is gentle parenting getting severely mixed up with permissive parenting? Yes, and y'all need to stop, okay? Those of you perpetuating this narrative with criticisms that don't even apply need to stop. And those of y'all permissive parenting and calling it gentle parenting need to stop as well, okay? Call it something else. I don't know. Call it just vibes parenting. But don't call it gentle parenting, okay? I'm Destiny Ann. I hope you learned something. If you enjoy this kind of stuff, you can check out my online parenting group. It's in the description. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time.